Hello, this is Mark Raymond Frisby Jr., running for governor of California and establishing the Godhead Church and Virgin Trinity churches. So, I don't know if anybody's watching or if this is saved as media or anything like that. So, I'm setting this up for future sermons and campaigns, and to see how the process works with YouTube Studio. It's very convenient, and you know it's a great avenue venue. It's a great venue. So I'm looking at it here. As far as I know, I mean, right now, as of right now, there's no one even knows this channel exists yet. So there's no subscribers or anything. So there wouldn't be any likes or dislikes or and I'm looking to navigate through this to see what if this media is saved or you know it's a live stream, so I suppose it's saved into the library. Um, you could watch it later. I don't know what I guess the difference is. It's unedited, so maybe part of that's the difference. As far as the the program, I would like to do a Sunday program. It sounds pretty nice. It's kind of a new thing. Okay. Also, for running for governor, I didn't make the primaries, and I did not get any kind of immediate support as far as for my independent campaign as socialist to be on the ballot for the primaries. Now, I was at a homeless shelter during that time, and I did request support, but I didn't receive it. So, you know, who is actually running and then who's actually going to get elected also has a lot to do with the corruption in our current administration. Uh, and so that's a major reason why I am running for governor and I'm running for president of the United States of America. So I would not pay with what little money I had at the homeless shelter to try to get on the ballot um, without some kind of support. To it's $1 billion campaign. It's a big money industry, right? And who's going to be the guy up front to be the governor, and then what's he going to do when he's there? And so what people often do is say, well, we're going to be this kind of state. We're going to be a Republican state. We're going to be a Democratic state, and let the politicians figure out who's gonna do it. And a lot of times, what it is that it's the guy that says, "Well, should I just go for it? Should I? What do you think?" And he's not really up against any opposition from, uh, the CIA or any special interest groups, you know, that are going to stop him from doing it. And that what they might look at more than likely is, what does he know and what's he going to do when he's there? Because they have, right, of course, their own agenda, right? They have their own program. So, most of the time, what they're going to go for, the people who are against, Christians that are persecuting Aryan Christians and kind of destroying our country and the fabric of, our democracy and everything is, who's going to stop them? So they want a guy that's, a little less qualified and maybe, a little less gung ho or knowledgeable about what they actually do, you know, so they can kind of slide through with a minimal kind of opposition, right? It would be like, who do we want? Who do we want? To right to be in charge is somebody who's not really paying attention. Like, who do we want to be in charge? Say for study hall or something like. Well, we don't want anybody there. We want it vacant, right? So we can come and go and whatever, do whatever we want. Right? Exactly. So you get what I'm saying, right? So they bring candidates forward. For, well, should I go for it? These independent party candidates. Local government. It's not easy to get into. Well, at the higher levels of the CIA, all the elections have been rigged since 1961. So what has happened is that in place where there was some kind of opposition to whatever program the CIA was doing, those people have been removed, including recently. I noticed Mayor Rudolph Giuliani was replaced in New York, the mayor, by a gung-ho mayor who's running for senator, who's likely to run against me as president. And that person is also running for Senate right now. And if you will, let's see, I don't know if you can. Wait 1 second while I verify this information. That person is Al Gore. Now, the problem with Al Gore being mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, I'm sorry, Bill de Blasio, right? The issue with Bill de Blasio, right? And the thing about it is that what picture you might get to see of Bill de Blasio, right? Bill de Blasio. You're not going to recognize him as Al Gore for the most part. He's using an alias, right? So Bill de Blasio is Al Gore. Is Al Gore? He was the vice president, right, of the United States under Bill Clinton, right? And what they did, the CIA, was use the global warming, right, angle for Al Gore to be given billions of dollars, right, for his global warming campaign, right? Which, I mean, probably didn't do a lot of damage, but it, basically what they have done with the money, the billions of dollars, is put Aryan Christians, white people, out of work and out of politics, out of the media, and out of their homes and their jobs, and ruin their lives and their families because they're racist. They're racist Jews. So the racist Jews, the CIA, are racist Jews. They've been doing that since 1961. And what has happened is that there aren't any really Aryan Christians left in politics because of that. So Bill de Blasio is not. He looks white, right? And Jews often look white. They do. They, if you look at the TV shows like the X-Men, right, from Marvel Comics, all those people look white, pale skin white, but they're Jewish. They're Jewish. Remember the Holocaust and all that. Jews, right? And so the thing with those Jews is they persecute Christians. And Al Gore, Bill de Blasio, is one of those people. So, and so is Hillary Clinton. She's also Jewish. So, and she's from New York. So the thing about Hillary Clinton being from New York is that they're not from Little Rock, Arkansas, the Clintons, right? Bill Clinton's from Scotland. He's not a native-born American citizen. Okay, the CIA and Scotland Yard smuggled him in the United States because of his, royal family ties, right? So Bill Clinton was tied to the Scottish royal family, had a divorce, moved to America, married a Jewish actress from New York, Hillary Clinton, and they moved her to Little Rock, Arkansas, where it's a disaster. It's a total disaster in Little Rock. And I haven't been to Little Rock, Arkansas in over 20 years. But when I was there, it was completely corrupted, meth-infested dump full of racists. And it's still that way as far as I know. It's probably worse. So there were, they had run most of the white Aryan Christians out of Little Rock. As, he claimed to maybe even be from the Bible Belt. And a lot of times they say that that Midwest area is Little Rock is no longer a part of that. Because of that, because of the Clintons and the movement by the CIA that is progressive. So how Al Gore factors into that? He's Jewish. he's Jewish, just like Jon Stewart, or the television personality guy, or Stephen Colbert, or every other guy that's basically on television now. They're all Jewish now, and that it's not because they're more talented, or they have more education or a better artistic ability or anything along those lines. And on top of that, Aryan Christians are being run out of schools. It's not a requirement, right, to have that kind of inherent knowledge or talent. To sit in a classroom and be babysit. Aryan Christians are, able to read, and you can self-educate yourself very quickly by reading a book. Most college books are they're a book. So, anyways, back to my point about running for governor of California and president. Who's going to be the governor? The current governor of California, and who's up for election, and all that, and then what their opposition might be, and my not being on the ballot for the primaries. So, okay, so there it is. I'm not on the ballot for the primaries. I'm still running, and I need all the vote. So if everybody tunes in all of a sudden to my channel and says, we want Frisby to be the governor, I'm running for governor. All right, I want to be on the ballot, and I would like to win. And I'm running as a socialist. I'm also running for president the same way. I'm a Christian, Aryan Christian, and I am also into ministry. I'm starting that now. So I will do a ministry straight from the Bible. All right, I have a verse from the Bible, and I'll talk about it. And then because there are a lot of lessons in the Bible and how they relate to human nature and spirituality in a higher a higher level of enlightenment and things like that. And it's good for you. It's really great for you. I have here the New Testament, Psalms. This is the New Testament, right? There's a lot in here. Right. Pick a verse from there and speak about it. We go to, and it's yours, right? Right. James chapter 4, verse 13. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him is sin. And that was more than one verse. That was James 4:13 to 17. And this topic is a very centrifugal topic in the Bible, the New Testament, and in what also the Apostle Paul has brought into the forefront in the Bible of about the one true God. The one true God. So is the higher God, right? The God that created all things. And not to forget exactly what the passage just said. It said, you're arrogant to say what you're going to do tomorrow of your own will without giving grace to God, who gives you all things, the will and the knowledge and the ability to do everything that you do. So it's in God. And when they boast of arrogance, the boast of arrogance is in mortality because it's in sin. They say the boast of arrogance is in sin. And the rationale behind it being in sin is that it's because it's not of God. So you're speaking of your own will and not of what was given to you by God in honor of the Father. So when one of the Ten Commandments is, honor thy father, honor thy mother and thy father, to say that what you're doing is righteous in honor of what has already gone before you and been done, right? And not of what, none of what you're just completely capable of. Because, even if you are maybe just totally capable of something, maybe you're possibly insulting or putting down, the will of the Father, the Creator, right? By doing what's possible. And I like to say what you're doing is you're spending your mortality. You're kind of running the tab when you do that. You're kind of running. You're kind of using yourself, so you're hurting yourself when you do that. Of your own free will, right? So, not to say that you can't create and do incredible things, but I will say that when you do create and do incredible things, it is in the Father God that you do those things, and not by some mistake, or by some dumb luck, or by sheer willpower. And most of the time, and then when you hurt yourself, or it hurts, or you fail miserably, that was the arrogance that brought you to it. So, anyways, right, and then so as like with this, my running my campaign here, you know, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee at all. In arrogance, I would be arrogant to say I'm going to get elected governor. Because in appearance, it has no. There's no. There's no way. There's no evidence towards that. But I can say that it is God's will that I have the ability to request to be nominated and be on the ballot, and that I would like to do good things as the governor of California and the president of the United States of America. And so, God willing, God gave me the ability to get online today and start a live broadcast. Here I am, working. So, and these kind of things that I work on are at a very high, they're at a very high security level. Also, there's a very high pay grade and extremely high security level, right? Way beyond just national security, because this is religious persecution, and it's way past what should have been allowed constitutionally for some government entities, especially the CIA and NASA, who have gone way past what would be constitutional in displacing persons like myself out of work, and stealing their property and making them homeless, persecuting their race and their families, and bringing in even foreign entities, right? As long as they served the purpose of persecuting Aryan Christians. And so I often take the example of the moon landing, because it has been used for 60 years to persecute Aryan Christians. Okay, the War of the Worlds was Orson Welles' that was the original thing. All right, that's what happened. Orson Welles came on the radio and he said, aliens have landed on Earth, and a lot of people were tuned in and believed that this was a true story that he was running through. Right, it was a sci-fi movie that he had created. It was a sci-fi audio scenario, because it was over the radio. It wasn't a movie, but it was a radio broadcast, a science fiction radio broadcast. He was intensely broadcasting, so a lot of people believed in it. And then, well, NASA and the CIA were able to convince a lot of people that we landed on the moon, and a lot of people believed it, and they were able to launch a lot of money through it and get other people to play along, other governments even play along. All right, and so this technology that doesn't actually exist has been used to say, well, we have this superpower that you don't to other countries, right? And that we're going to use it against you if we have to, and then give us money and and do what we tell you, right? And then and so it's a lot of what America has been doing has been a lie. Okay, on top of that, a lot of what America has been doing has been persecuting Aryan Christians because the CIA are racist Jews. They're racist. So, when you have a hate group like the CIA, right? It's a terrorist organization like the Taliban or, right? That we were, with the new one, say, would they be like I would have to, compare it to the Taliban, right? So imagine if, okay, now there they are, and they have authority over, pretty much unchecked authority over the media and over your intellectual, personal, private property, and your personal life, and your currency, and the current I say like I said, this is a working thing, or I'm running for governor. And so, as I explain this to you, I might be explaining this as I'm creating policy in the office as the governor of California, and certainly as the president of the United States of America. But over commerce, right? So, who who gets government grants and funding? Who gets audited from their taxes? Who goes to prison? Who's harassed, right? Because when the CIA, and this is what they do, they use racketeering, gang type like racketeering, money laundering, theft, religious persecution, certainly of Aryan Christians, fraud, um, illegal search and seizure, right? Insider trading, right? And these other things, especially with the illegal search and seizure, insider trading, and personal property theft and intellectual property theft, right? It starts to add up to a very high value of uh, of commerce that has been pirated from, basically stolen from Aryan Christians in America over 60 years. So I'm saying, like, when a individual, like, and then I can name the ones that are currently the top Fortune 500 people, right, in America, and they're all Jewish, have been created along with that, if they're not actual members of the CIA, by the CIA, for the purpose of the persecution of Aryan Christians. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, even Elon Musk is Jewish. They're Jewish, right? They're all Jews. And you look at the industries that they're in, these tech industries, and how they got that, right? Funding and the grants. And not only that, the intellectual property. When I say I created something, I created the Powerwall originally, right? I did as an engineer, because that was part of my education and training, and that's kind of what I am. So I created the Powerwall. All right, say something like, not some crazy thing. It wasn't called the Powerwall. I'm saying I created something a lot like the Powerwall, and my invention was a little bit better than the Powerwall. But what happened was, when I created the Powerwall, I sought funding for it, right? Just like I am right now, campaigning for president, even though I'm behind the curve, I'm still campaigning for governor. And I'm doing a sermon. All right. And here I am, and nobody's even online yet. No one even knows, really. I don't have any, right, as of right now, followers, anybody watching this, right? Right. But the CIA did follow me and watch me, and they put me back in prison. I was reincarcerated. I had CIA agents waiting for me when I got there to harass me some more for another year and a half. And they did. Right. My invention was stolen and given to Elon Musk, and commercials and mass advertisement campaigns were all launched. Right. And Elon Musk was given $200 billion around that time. $200 billion. SpaceX took off. Right. Okay, over these times during COVID-19. All right, this is all while everybody's wearing a face mask, COVID-19 pandemic, right? So the CIA didn't just do that with Frisby, Mark Raymond Frisby Jr. They did it with other Aryan Christians. They stole their intellectual properties, and this is not the only intellectual property thing that was stolen from me, right? Before that, I mean, and also during this time, I was working on screenplays that were stolen and harassed and flaunted, by the corporate media and a lot of racist people in the corporate media, right? Along with that, right? And that they can get to play along. So, and they did a lot of that. So there's still my power wall is still not a product. I'm just recently have an apartment. I was homeless for 10 months, completely homeless for 10 months. Okay, I lived at a homeless shelter at the VA, and I did that to stay off the street. And I'm also constantly been harassed by the CIA. So trying to get a place on my own really makes me vulnerable when I'm not, uh, advocating that this harassment has been consistent, and it has. And it even while I was at the homeless shelter, they had members from the actor studio uh, to harass me, and it was a far stretch, but it wasn't that far, a far of a stretch. Uh, you know that they have people in the state and local government they can do some of that work for them, and they do. Okay. So, and also getting into politics, and a lot of a lot of this comes inherently because they don't know why they're so successful. Okay, these extremely racist Jewish people don't they just seem to they think they just have the talent when the CIA put them there because they're extremely racist. Right? They're not inherently talented or anything like that, but they are some of the most racist people in the world, and then now they're on television and they're in the media. And so I write music, right? Look who's on MTV, right? And I watch MTV these days, and there's no Aryan Christians left at all. It's gays, blacks, Mexicans, and Jews, and mostly. And I look at the spellings, like Aaron spelling and Tori spelling all over MTV, and Aryan spelling, and then you gotta look at what the CIA gave Aaron spelling, all this control over the I'm going to say that all the corporate media, but the network television, is would be the more specific term. The thing is that you get one guy like Aaron Spelling who has a ton of control over network television and the media that goes out there, and not only that, who's on TV, right? And how the system works with advertisement, and who's going to get their products on TV, and who owns everything, all the way up to the Fortune 500 companies, right? you know who's going to go belly up investing or paying for media time, right? Because you're going to go bankrupt if you're not Aaron Spelling's friend trying to do a TV show, right? Obviously. Now here's the thing: you're not going to be on MTV. You're not going to go on. Okay, well here's another thing: you're not going to be on MTV. You're not going to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You're not going to be at the music awards unless you're a Jew. And somehow, Tori Spelling thinks you're a cool Jew because they're racist, right? You understand what I'm saying? They're extremely racist people. So it's all Jewish now. It's all Jewish. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's rigged, right? The MTV Music Awards, everybody on MTV is a Jew. They're all Jews and blacks and homosexuals. Since when was that a requirement? As a Christian, I gotta say it's definitely not a requirement, right? To be a homosexual, you know, minority. I mean, I don't even say we don't even say minority anymore. Just a homosexual Jew or a black to be on MTV now is basically a requirement. So but those are all 90210 Tory Spelling friends, right? All of them, and they live really close to where I live here in LA. They live right down the street, and from the homeless shelter. Even some of them were over there by the homeless shelter, right? And Beverly Hills is only 3 miles from there. If that, I walk there. I can walk to Beverly Hills. I did. So, and I do, and I go to Beverly Hills sometimes. I like the Wilshire. I like the Beverly Hills Wilshire, and I write movies. I even wrote a movie about the Beverly Hills Wilshire. But the thing is this: I write screenplays, and it's a great movie, and I would still like to produce it, but there's more to it than that. Is what I'm saying. there's more politics than you're just a great actor and a screenwriter. You know, there's more to it than that because I'm not a Jew. You understand that what I wrote doesn't matter. That it's good or bad or anything. None of that really matters. I'm not a Jew. I'm not a friend of Aaron Spelling's or Tori Spelling's, right? So this pours forward to, well, there's other, right? There's other networks. There's other producers, right? There's other members of the Actors Studio and the Screen Actors Guild, right? There are, but they're similar. They're very similar to that. And so when you have the CEO is going to be similar of a different network or a different, production company is going to be similar to Aaron Spelling, or you won't be in the business because the CIA obviously had a part in that, is what I'm saying. But at this time, that's just the way the business is, that you're not going to be in the media at all if you're an Aryan Christian, right? Then it puts you in a situation, it puts me in a situation where, well, I have to start my own media company somehow, right? Or else I'm not going to be making these movies. Or I, have to politic, obviously, right? And I'm in the state of California where I'm looking at this as, these are kind of becoming terrorist organizations now that are persecuting my race and controlling the media and then persecuting Aryan Christians. So whatever's coming out of that is, evil or bad, or what I'm saying. And it should be stopped. Aryans should stand up for their rights and then maybe take a little more action into being involvement into the media, into politics, right? And so and you got to realize you're going to be up against opposition, and most Aryans are going to look at Aryan Christians are going to look at the situation and say, well, things aren't that bad for me. Why should I bother? It's not, so big deal. Or I don't even really watch TV, or it's not my industry, right? It doesn't really affect me, right? And life's pretty good for you, right? And so what happened was, if that's the case, and you'd have no idea what I'm talking about, then you were completely oblivious to what had the overall agenda of what the persecution of Christian Aryans by the Jews has been by the CIA and NASA into the FCC and our current administration up until this point. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've been doing it for 60 years now. So it's been going on your entire life. So everything that you see is normal, right, is normal now. It's just the way it is now because of the persecution that has been taking place for 60 years. So the fact that there are no Aryan Christians in the media is normal to an Aryan Christian right now. And they wouldn't think much of it. Why should I bother? It's just not, it doesn't really pertain to me. It's not a big deal, right? And I have my job and my house and whatever, my life. And it goes on the way that it does, right? So you don't see what has been taken from you or what's being taken from you, and or the persecution is prevalent, right? So, okay, I'm not saying that you have to, do anything beyond what you're capable of in God. If you have received the message in God, do what you can that God says is in His will. And it brings us back to James 13 through 17. That so, knowing this, you're going to storm the gates or whatever and protest and whatnot, right, tomorrow. And we're going to do this all, and we're going to do this all right now. Or something like that, right? That's not what God asked you to do, right? To open your eyes to it, right? And to act. Whatever you can do, right? And I'm asking you to vote for Frisby. I'm asking you to vote for Frisby, to vote for Mark Raymond Frisby Jr. for governor, and definitely for president, as a socialist. And I'm running as a socialist. I'm running as a socialist to get a three-party system introduced into our democracy. All right. As it is right now, two parties is not the most democratic way. Also, socialism has been given a bad rap for no good reason. All right. That socialism works without democracy is part of the reason why. That all of your tax dollars go to socialist programs, anyways. What American socialist programs are, there's about 900 of them, and your tax dollars are divvied up between those programs. And they run those are your government programs that run all those services that are provided by the government. What happens though is that you're told socialism is bad, right? But not the socialist programs, right? And so like the post office is a great socialist program that we have. And so when I say I'm running as a socialist, the post office, the postal system, is a great socialist program. It uses tax dollars to supplement, and it actually turns a profit, right? So one of the requests about America is to have a healthcare program that works that way, right? A socialist healthcare program. Well, you have to be willing to consider how a socialist program could be profitable, right? And then establish it, right? So to set up a universal healthcare, we like to call it universal health, a national healthcare, system, right? Similar to the post office, where we have a standard rate, right? A service rate, right? And then we have federal employees, right? Like postal workers that work diligently and everything, and they do their job. And then the rates are set, right? Competitively. And so what this does is this keeps a competitive rate for a reasonable rate for healthcare services, right? Set by a socialist program that's going to be there for you, right? And there are a lot of independent companies, especially recently, that compete with the U.S. Postal Service. There's no law against that, and that's great for them, right? But the Postal Service is there. And what it does is it keeps everything going. It keeps the government, it keeps the country going, right? So if, the UPS and FedEx have been around a long time and they were great. And now Amazon is also doing deliveries, right? And these other companies, right? There's no law to say that they can't do that. That's a socialist program that is very functional, right? The U.S. Postal Service. So we say we can do a government Medicare service, right? That has standard rates for healthcare, and there's still room for competitive healthcare and private companies all over the world, right? So we and also most importantly that I go through as the governor of California, and especially the president of the United States, and look at the programs that are laundering money using insider trading, that are corrupt, that are stealing money, or they're not functional, or need to be reformed, or streamlined, or need more funding, right? Or need to be created, where there's a need for a new socialist program to create, right? As a socialist, running socialist, then that would be my focus, right? So how we spending the money, and then how the services are being provided, and infrastructure and growth and civilization, right? So these things are great, right? But then not to turn away from the bigger picture that the programs like the CIA have been corrupted since the beginning, since they were formed, NASA and the CIA, to steal trillions of dollars and to persecute Armenians and Christians. So there will be some reform in those programs, definitely, right? And education and all these things, mostly comes down to certifications and degrees, and then what jobs you're allowed to have. right? What you can do, and then what you can do safely and things like that. So, you know, it's a very complicated thing, obviously, and it's a full-time job, right? As a governor, a working governor, definitely a president. So I'm requesting the vote from both is to look at all of these things, right? And international uh, relations and all these things. Um, so we have state laws, we have Senate bills that regulate what the governor does. All these different fundings for programs and different consequences and benefits for the behaviors of things, and then enforcing policies like the COVID-19 pandemic policies with vaccinations and cards and things like this, and what everybody else in the other states are doing, and how we relate to and compete and compare to other states, and how we get along in the union, right? So California, all of a sudden wants to, break into two states or something like that. It's pretty tough. That's a pretty tough uh, hurdle for for a governor, right? So how do we consolidate that? Things like that. So, I have mentioned, one of the things I would like to take care of is the California wildfires. So, to put more planes in the air, and then acquire some locations for more aeronautical firefighting, anti forest fire airplanes, aircraft. That would be a big issue for me to accomplish. Um, I already was talk about the taboo, whatever. There's a lot of anti-Christian media. I will oppose that. And I'm not going to say that I'm going to give money for Christian Aryan broadcasting or anything like that, or make some big deal about that. What I am going to do is encourage Aryan Christians to get involved in the media at their level of interest, and not accept any kind of a harassment by especially a government entity if you try to do your media, to do your TV show or your play or whatever it is, or have your opinion about anything, right? You're allowed to have an opinion. And in a job, right? So if an Aryan Christian wants to work at a media company, they should be allowed to. They shouldn't be boycotted or ran out of there, or replaced by well, anybody can do your job. Watch, because that's not really true. It's really not true. And when somebody tells you anybody can do your job, and look, and then it turns into a total disaster, and that's just the best that anybody could have done, and it's not. It's a train wreck. You know, it's a train wreck that could have been prevented. And that you could have possibly, right, done a whole lot better job, obviously, right? And so here we are, and this is media. This is live. This is my first live broadcast. I'm here running for governor, establishing a Godhead Church and Virgin Trinity Church, and running for president. Raymond Frisby Jr. for president. It is Sunday. Did do a sermon about a little bit about the that one was about arrogance. And when you talk about the New Testament, all right, the New Testament, a lot of times it talks about honoring the Father, and that is what James 13 through 17 was referring to, was giving honor to yourself and your ego above honor to the higher calling, right? We're going to go out there and do that because we're something we're we're saying we're something, or we're going to do something without knowing, right? And it's also doing something without saying you're going to do something without knowing if you're going to actually do it or not, or even more so, just saying something you're going to do something, then breaking your promise the next day, right? You know, well, I'm going to go out there and jog 5 miles, and then, you don't. Well, you kind of told everybody you were going to, right? Like that. So so what? But then it starts to become who you are if you do that constantly. I mean, right. So if you go and pronounce, and they say, you go and pronounce these things, I'm gonna make a claim that I'm gonna do a thing, and then you don't do it. So if you constantly do that, you don't follow through. You just kind of becomes, you kind of boastful and arrogant a lot, and you never actually do anything. Right. So not to say that you didn't want to. So there's forgiveness for that. Will I really wanted to go and jog 5 miles if I didn't have it in me, right? Something like that, right? You know what I'm saying? So honor the Father is what that's about. And right. So I love to answer questions and things like that. I would love to be the governor of California this term, right? There are, like I said, there are entities running against me for governor and for president that it is corrupted. So what I'm saying is the elections were corrupted, and when I'm saying that my not being in the primaries was corrupted also, and this was done by my illegal incarceration prior to the primaries, and the poverty that came from the thefts and the intellectual property thefts and the harassments, right, and the lack of work, and all of these other things that started, they were cumulative prior to the primaries to getting on the primary ballot, right? They kind of what these things do is they slow you down, right? They stop you. They can stop you from being in the primary elections and say, well, you were not employed, you didn't have a place to live, you didn't have an income or a job. How are you going to run for governor? On top of that, right? You were incarcerated, right? And all of your property was stolen, right? How are you going to run? And not only that, who knows who's going to vote for you as a socialist? There's never been a socialist governor. Who knows who you are, who's going to back you, right? And what I'm saying is that those people aren't going to know who you are if you were incarcerated and all your property was stolen, you were made homeless. They're not. Those people, the people that you need to know who you are, that you need to vote, they're not gonna. They're gonna have the confidence that you're gonna get elected. They're not gonna have it yet. You have to create that. So here I am, doing what I can to create that confidence that that here I am every day. Will be running for governor every day. I'll be running for president every day until I'm elected. So I'm still running, right? Whatever that buy-in is not expensive. And it's not. It's maybe $4,000 or something, $5,000 or something like that to get on the ballot for the governor. That's not super expensive. It is if you're made homeless, and kind of persecuted by the CIA, a lot, and then harassed by even with their friends in the corporate media who go up pretty high there. And so when I say things like, well, I look at, well, why was Aaron Spelling given network media control for 40 years, right? And who's in a guy like Frisby was constantly made homeless, right? Like myself, right? And it was a lot of it has to do with racism. So what I'm saying is that that's a real thing. Okay, that's a real thing. And some of the stories I have are practically unbelievable because of the people that were involved in in the media and things like that, kind of harassing me. Uh, but when you say like a guy like Scott Butnick was the producer of a Superman movie that I wrote that was stolen from me by J.K. Simmons, the guy that does the farmers commercials. So J.K. Simmons is in the CIA. I was illegally incarcerated. How do I know that J.K. Simmons is in the CIA? All right. How do I know that he's in the CIA? Right. How do I know that J.K. Simmons, the guy who does the farmers commercials, is in the CIA? You can call the CIA if you can find them. They're never going to tell you that they have an employee. They're not going to give you his name, even if you had his name or hers, because they have a lot of females in the CIA, including Sarah Palin. How can you prove that Sarah Palin's in the CIA or anybody? Right? You can't really, because they're going to use an alias and they're not going to give you that information. They're not just going to hand you that information. This is how I know, because J.K. Simmons came into California City Prison, where I was illegally incarcerated, as a prison guard, escorted me. No, he came in. I'm sorry. He came into Susanville Prison, Susanville, California prison, where I was illegally incarcerated, working on a screenplay. Okay. 2, I had written a Superman screenplay. Right. The Superman versus Batman. I was studying screenplay writing, and I had this book from the library. I'm going to show you the book. Maybe you watch this. From the library. I bought this book. But the book that I was reading from the library at Susanville State Prison was this book right here. All right? This book right here. It's this book. Macbeth. All right? And why is Macbeth so cool? Because I'm a screenwriter and an actor, right? And a songwriter and these other things, right? Look at the guy. Look. You think I can maybe do that role? I don't know. Maybe it's possible. Wouldn't it be nice for me to write, work on a movie where I could play a guy, like a role, right? So I'm working on Macbeth, and it's storyboarded. It's really cool. It has all these pictures. So I'm looking at, it's a cinematography guy also. This would be a great one, because all I have to do is, just explain it to you, location scout these kind of places, and have fun with it. So I'm working on Macbeth. J.K. Simmons, I recognize this guy because I remember him from the farmers commercials. I've seen him before on TV, right? So he escorts me to California City Prison from Susanville. It's kind of strange, especially the way that, he was kind of a mad dog looking at me when I was being, what is transferred is, they put you in shackles and they make you wear a jumpsuit, and all those little, cotton jumpsuit and everything, all this weird stuff. They put all your stuff in a box, whatever you have. What I had was screenplays in my box. One of them was the Superman movie. Okay. So when I got to California City Prison, J.K. Simmons had me assaulted by 2 undercover cops. And they transferred me from there. I asked them to transfer me to Norco CRC. They told me it was a person that I was in a holding cell with told me that Norco CRC was Horsetown, USA. And it just sounded like, well, that sounds kind of fun. That sounds kind of fun for a prison anyways, right? It sounds like a good rep. I don't really want to go to a place with a bad reputation, don't want to go to prison at all or whatever. I want to be anywhere. I don't want to be any bad situation. But anyways, you made Norco sound very nice, So they asked me where I want to go after J.K. Simmons had, my nose was broke and my ribs were cracked, right? And I didn't fight back because they could give me a life sentence, right, for fighting back. So I didn't. So I did get my nose broke, and it was, and my elbow was broke, right here, from blocking punches, and it did break. So okay, well, they did not charge me for being beat up. That was nice. J.K. Simmons wanted to give me a special ride to the hospital. I told him I didn't want one. All right, I don't know, because if they're trying to kill me or not, obviously. How do I know J.K. Simmons is in the CIA? Right? How did he get there anyways? Right? How do I know? Okay, well, there's Macbeth that I was working on in Susanville, right? Transferred to California City. Then in Norco. When I was at Norco, J.K. Simmons was in my Superman movie as Commissioner Gordon. Warner Brothers filmed it. Also, the producer of the movie's name was Scott Budnick. I know this. Someone told me that. It came up in a conversation about the time that NASA was doing another fake space launch. Scott Budnick, Sputnik is the name of the first Russian spacecraft, right? J.K. Simmons was in my Superman movie, right? Also, when I got out of prison the second time, because I was illegally incarcerated for a year, right? So after I left Norcal CRC, I went to a program for 2 weeks and was thrown back in prison for another year for no reason. I didn't do anything. Right? They had CIA agents waiting for me when I got back, so that it was pre-planned to do that, to deny me my release date completely. They tried to give me a life sentence without a trial that time. They did almost do that, and I had advocated as best as possible. I'm running for governor of California. I did previously. I wrote letters. I wrote internal investigations and everything. I wrote the White House. I don't know. I got no response back. Right, and it was very stressful and it was very traumatic. So when I did get out of prison the second time, that Denzel Washington was in Macbeth, the movie, right? All right, no big deal, except for next to the billboard of Denzel Washington, the Macbeth movie, was J.K. Simmons. I Love Lucy movie, getting a bunch of awards, right? So, how's that rigged? Just by the Actors Studio and the Actors Guild? I don't think it is. I think there was more to it than that, how he got into that prison. And this isn't the first encounter of CIA agents that I have had. Otherwise, I would have maybe think that there was maybe just a little shallower, coincidence, but it's not. I have had Sarah Palin come to my neighbor's house. There's a CIA agent in this building right now. She used the alias Kim, and she runs out street. I stay in my apartment most of the time for this reason. I've been here 2 months now. When I leave, when I go downstairs, she runs outside and flags somebody down, said I'm going somewhere. Last time I went out there, it was Scarlett Johansson, who rolled up on a van. It's kind of funny because, like I said, Kim was in. Well, I didn't say this yet to you. Kim was in Missouri when I had left engineering school after somebody attempted to, incarcerate me and harass me in Las Vegas when I was going to engineering school. I was being harassed by the CIA heavily, right? So I left. I just moved to Missouri. I went back to Missouri. I had lived in Missouri as a teenager, and so I moved to Forsyth, which I had never lived at before, but I knew the area a little bit, and I got myself a little place out there to mind my own business, away from the harassment. Sarah Palin. Okay, well, first I was homeless for about 2 months, and while I was homeless, Sarah Palin and Mark Kelly flew over me in the space shuttle. I went to a buddy of mine's house to have, to see if I could borrow an address to get some mail there. Right. While I was there for a couple hours, and I ended up getting a post office box. But anyways, I was there for a couple hours, and Sarah Palin came on the TV with a presidential debate with Dan Quayle, which was really odd that they were able to broadcast that, right? But they did, and I did not think, well, the CIA is harassing me or anything at the time. I just thought to myself, well, that's strange. Sarah Palin's on TV right now. There's no reason for it. So I got this place. I got this little, very inexpensive place in Forsyth, Missouri, and Forsyth, Missouri. I got a really inexpensive place in Forsyth, Missouri, and I was there a couple months before Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving, Sarah Palin came to my neighbor's house, Kim's house. Kim, who's here right now. Kim, who's in the CIA with Sarah Palin. Kim's about 80 years old. She's an 80-year-old female, right? It's very strange the way that they constantly stalk and harass people. But so Sarah Palin came over, saying that she wasn't Sarah Palin and Mark Kelly. I just seen her on TV with Dan Quayle. She said she was a psych from a mental institution, and that maybe I should consider being in a relationship with Scarlett Johansson, the actress. All right. I was not interested in that. Either one of those things. Going to a mental institution or being in a relationship with Scarlett Johansson doesn't make any sense to me at all. And it seemed kind of odd, right? So why though? What is it about? Well, what it is about is that just before I had gone to engineering school, I had a job. It was under contract for NASA, and I don't believe in the moon landing. And so I was working on making a film about how the moon landing was fake, and thinking nothing of it because it's America, and you're allowed to do that, right? Free speech and things like that. I wasn't asking to shut down NASA or anything like that, but now I am because NASA flipped out about it. I told my boss I thought the moon landing was fake, and he was getting $500,000 a year from NASA to build instruments that measure particles using laser diffraction. And so they came to my work, stole some parts from the Mars rover, got me fired, ran me out of my house, right? I moved to Las Vegas. I was going to go to engineering school anyway, so I did. Ran me out of engineering school, so I moved to Missouri. Followed me to Missouri to try to put me away somehow in a mental institution or something. And then that or maybe, just hook up with Scarlett Johansson. And why is that? Because we're going to make this about something else. Those people are terrorists, all right? You want to make it about something else. You want to change the subject. And this is what often happens in the media, is that they want to change the subject. So we're going to make this about something besides the moon landing is fake. We're going to forget about that. And then we'll just keep going business as usual, laundering money to racist entities, right? And Jews like Jeff Bezos or even Elon Musk, especially recently, right? SpaceX. All that SpaceX stuff was new when I was homeless. All that came out when the NASA had ran me out of my house and everything, and engineering school and all that, right? And so SpaceX, someone came up to me. I was in Los Angeles, and I was like, where am I going to go now? I don't know. I came back to Los Angeles. It's like I have to find a place to live and work and all these things, right? And I went to acting school, right? So I still have, I still had the ability to go to acting school and things like that. So I did. Before that, though, I was homeless, and someone just come up to me and start talking about SpaceX, like I was supposed to know everything about it, right? Well, they were telling me about how SpaceX was doing this really great stuff, and they were going to go to Mars and all these things, right? I know this is a lie, right? I know they're lying to me. So, how that was prevalent in the media at the time and everything, I have to look back and say that, this kind of propaganda is a constant assault against people who know that they're lying, right? People like myself who know that NASA lied about the moon landing are constantly bombarded with this stuff, right? In their face, and they're made homeless, and they're harassed, and so that's what's happened to me. That's what they've been doing. They've been doing that to a lot of people. So what I'm doing is I'm running for governor of California, and I'm running for president about it, right? And I'm running right now. So I would appreciate all the votes from both parties to come together in unison to say that we could use a 3-party system at least in some states, because the way that we have it now, there's a division that's kind of been agreed upon between the 50 states to be primarily Democratic or Republican, right? Some swing states, and they throw that in there, unless you have a candidate that is, going to surpass all of that. And that's the candidate that I am, that hopefully I can surpass all of that. That's the candidate that I'm attaining. My goal is to attain to be that candidate, right? So that we can make socialist states. California would be a great socialist state if we got 1/3 of the country to be socialist states, right? And then a 3-party election. Here's the thing about it right now. Usually, the way that it's set up, 3 candidates don't go to the election, to the ballot, to the final election in November. It's 2, right? The best top 2, right? So one party would be out, right? Either a Democrat or a Republican or a socialist, right? And socialist just hasn't really been solidified ever, right? To compete. So it's almost pointless, right? So I'm saying don't make it pointless. Make it a point to make California the first socialist state, right? To have a socialist governor. No state has ever had a socialist governor, right? So it's a big goal. It's a great goal, right, to attain. To have a three-party country would be to make California a socialist state, and then to hopefully get other 1/3 at least of the other states to also become socialist. Um, right. Right. So I was saying, these stories about J.K. Simmons, like, oh, what I was saying about that before, I got into, how I know that, to complete the story, this wasn't my first encounter with the CIA agent, and I have to just know these things because no one's going to come up and say, well, here's my, tax refund and everything. I'm in the CIA, right? They're not, and then where the money comes from. And all that. Mostly they steal property from people like myself. That's where the CIA gets their money. They steal things that are of value from people like me, right? Or you. And that's how they get their money. So what I was saying was that when I got out of illegal incarceration the second time, I might have mentioned that the Macbeth billboard with Denzel Washington was right next to the J.K. Simmons billboard. I Love Lucy, right? So it's political. Yes, it's very political. The J.K. Simmons would come to prison and steal my screenplay, and the Warner Brothers would throw a party at Norcos USC where I was illegally incarcerated. Have a movie starring 50 Cent and the unbelievable story that starring 50 Cent and Jamie Foxx about a guy who becomes a lawyer in prison. I worked at the law library in Norcos CRC at the time, and we were the number one law library in the state of California, which makes us the number one law library in the world. All right. I don't know. For this reason, California is the second biggest state for prisoners, for sure, next to Texas, as far as I know, and the number one state, the number one law library in the state was Norcos CRC at the time. Now, the unbelievable story is this: that Jamie Foxx was at the homeless shelter at the VA, posing as a janitor. He's a member of the Actors Studio. I went to Lee Strasberg Acting School. So I don't know if he's a member of Lee Strasberg, but John Voight is. And John Voight was there also, saying that he was a homeless veteran and acting like a complete retard, which is goes against Tropic Thunder, the movie. If you ever watched the movie Tropic Thunder, Robert Downey Jr. he tells Ben Stiller, he says, you never go full retard when you're acting. But John Voight did, and he kind of blew his cover that way. So there was a guy that played guitar there named Axel, and every time he was about to leave, there was a gazebo area. So I sat out there a couple of times, and John Voight was out there acting like a complete retard. So basically, he was staring off into space like this, and then listening to jazz music, stuff like that. He's like, and then Axel would stop everything he was doing on the way. I said, "That's John Voight. That's John Voight." All right, so no big deal. Okay, because the acting school is only 4 miles away. All right. He's a member of the acting. He's an alumni there. All right. Yeah, he was there. So what I'm saying is, this is a true story that John Voight was there. Also, Danny DeVito. He used the alias Crash, and he lost weight for this role. It was very hard to recognize Danny DeVito, except for that, he's short, and he used the words goons a lot. Thinking about when someone says it sounds like a couple of goons. There's only one guy in the world, which is very interesting that says that. And that's Danny DeVito. So when Danny DeVito, when he looks like Danny DeVito, he says it sounds like a couple of goons, and you think to yourself, well, that's definitely Danny DeVito because no one else says a couple of goons. Sounds like a couple of goons. Only Danny DeVito says that. And he actually had the best disguise. Arnold Schwarzenegger also, he was in a movie with Danny DeVito, the movie Twins. Did show up also, but he did not pose as a homeless veteran or anything. He showed up had a kind of a PR thing and donated some gazebo, like some houses over there. They're still over there at the VA. So as far as I know, you know, I wasn't there. I went to this is what actually happened though, and I was telling everybody, and I am still running for governor. I did not go to that ceremony where he was there to donate those gazebos or whatever. I went to Santa Monica looking for an apartment, an affordable housing apartment, from the homeless shelter. And I was there, and Arnold Schwarzenegger did drive by in his Ferrari, a blue Ferrari, and I did see him there. He's kind of a famous guy down there in Santa Monica. He really is. T-shirts everywhere, Muscle Beach, and all that. So that's kind of his stomping grounds there. Yeah, he was down there. Yeah, but so Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger, John Voight were there. And also Jamie Foxx was there at the homeless shelter. So what does that tell you though? That Jamie Foxx was there. What for? Right? What for? Well, because I was there. What else was he there for? But then what did he want? Because when I asked him if he Jamie Foxx, he said no. Right? No, I'm not. But he was. Right? So what did he want? And also there was a lot of trouble for me to be placed into, with these false accusations and harassments by the CIA and things like that. In the big joke, right? Since the big movie came out with Jamie Foxx and 50 Cent while I was in prison about him, one of those guys being a lawyer. I didn't watch the movie, right? Right. So there they are, and then they did, and they were so they were there, and so when I say it's political and it's racist, it's very racist. Those people are very racist. They're racist. So Jamie Foxx is a racist. He's a complete racist, and I don't know if he's Jewish or not. John Voight is though, and all of the members of the actor studio are Jews, and they're racist Jews. I know this because I was there over there in acting school. I went to that Lee Strasberg acting school for a year, right? And everybody there was a Jew. And they were alumni and members of the actor studio, including Robert De Niro and those other people, whoever, right? And they are, and there they were, right? So they were, and they did steal my screenplays, my property, and harassment, right? They did, and so that did happen. And so what I'm saying is that happens to other white people that go into that area, into the music or the movie industry and things like that. So I was also getting into the music industry. I still am, but there was theft there. There was theft and harassment, and it was ongoing. It's been in its constant, it's harassment, and the CIA is also backing them. So they're not only are there racists in the corporate media, all the way up to the FCC, they're gainfully employed and they're supported by the CIA. Is what I'm telling you. That the government entities that should be regulating that kind of activity are persecuting Aryan Christians out of the industry, right? And so I look at it as kind of a terrorist act. That what they are doing is kind of like a terrorist act, right? That they're persecuting my race, right? And me personally, obviously, but then I look at who else is there in the media, who's there. They're all Jewish. I think it's not just me, right? And when I say they have people acting, doing roles that were traditionally or kind of created even by Aryan Christians, like Santa Claus or Christmas, or like when they're Jewish and they don't celebrate Christmas, but they don't want you to have it, is what I'm saying. And there's still a market for it, and they don't want people necessarily to, go looking for it somewhere else or whatever, or think that maybe there's something fishy happening, right? So they still kind of do Christmas, right? Whatever. They still kind of do Christian stuff a little bit, right? While they still have to, right? For now, until what they're doing systematically is removing Christianity from the media, the best that they can, right? And so they're doing that the best they can. And then so far, what I'm saying is that they have been somewhat extremely successful in removing Aryan Christians from the media. You know, talk show hosts. They make it about things like different political view, right? Or a different, maybe social or ethnic background on the surface, right? Like, well, this guy is a Republican, right? This guy's a Democrat, right? and this guy is maybe an athletic guy, and this guy's maybe a geeky guy, right? What they're not saying is that they're not telling you, what's not being brought into the forefront is that they're all Jews. You have on TV, you have a Democratic Jew, all right, or a Republican Jew. You have an athletic Jew, and you have a nerdy Jew, right? If you can use the word nerdy, right? All right, they're all Jews. The Aryans aren't on there. Right? They ran them out. Ran them out of their jobs and their houses and all the other things. Right? So, right. So, well, okay, there it is. So I'm saying, well, Aryan Christians should, maybe consider getting, active about, keeping their, position in media and politics, or, keeping their traditions and their beliefs, right, prevalent, and not being persecuted by another race. And so that's kind of what's happening is, when you're being persecuted by another race, you kind of gauge the level of it, and how you're affected by it, and then because the excuse that's given to you is, well, everybody's like that for their own kind or whatever, right? So, obviously they're going to do that because, well, Christians aren't, and they traditionally haven't been doing that, right? So anybody is welcome into your church or your whatever workplace, right? As a good Christian with your values, right? You're going to accept that, but they're not going to accept it when you come into there. Right? They're going to run you out. And so what that is that works against you. And when there's no requirement for you to let those people persecute you. You're not required to as a good Christian. And it brings us to the lesson of Jesus, the actual ultimate lesson of Jesus Christ. And you say, a lot of people throw this at you. Well, he's God in the flesh, and you have to believe, or you're going to hell, and all these other things, right? Well, okay. Understand what the role was, and what it means that maybe, that he died, Jesus maybe died for your sins or to save you, right? He died for you, right? As what is known as like a saint, or, in most people's opinion, and in the Bible, is he had attained a oneness with God. So that being said, that what he did wasn't arrogant. What he did was sacrificial. That it wasn't because he, in any way boastful. It was sacrificial, and it was the will of God that he do what he did, and that it be believed and carried on as a story, as a sacrificial story, as a saint and an apostle, and even God as attaining to being one with God, right? That he died, Jesus died, to show you what evil bigots will do to a Christian, to a good person, to a good Samaritan, to an innocent person, to an innocent person. What he's saying, okay, specifically, racist Jewish people did to an innocent person, but also what the Antichrist will do to you naturally. They will persecute you. They are the Antichrist. Jesus Christ, his name is Jesus Christ. That's his name, right? A saint, an apostle, a man who died on a cross, right? And foretold this, that he would resurrect, and he did. So for whatever belief system or whatever reason, that maybe he woke back up after those 9 hours, that he did, as evidence that he did survive, that God had a plan for him, right? To live through it, right? So he did, and he lived through it. And this is an ancient story, right? So ancient, right? 2,000 years, right? A guy that lived through being hung for 9 hours, right? But more importantly, why he did it and why other people believed it. And the lesson is the most important. The lesson that was the Antichrist. He foretold, we're going to do an evil thing, and that he sacrificially went ahead and went through with what would happen if you were to allow the Antichrist to do whatever they wanted to do without opposing, right? And he did the Father's will, right? So what God wants for you is to take that lesson and believe, not just in Jesus Christ, but in the lesson that he died to show you what evil people will do if you let them. So in being a Christian and believing in Christ, you believe in God, that God wanted you to have a life without persecution. And that sometimes you have to do what you have to do to survive, right? Right. And Jesus stopped. If you ever read the story, I don't know, but he did stop Peter and others from attacking the guards and stopping the hanging, right, the crucifixion, because he was doing what prophetically he was doing, was fulfilling the will of God to show you, to die for you, so that you could see what would happen if they were not stopped. Now I don't know if you've read the story, but he said, I can send an army and they will come and they will stop you, but I'm not going to. I wanted to let you do what you do because God has asked me to. And he did. And so Jesus did not say that everybody should do that. He didn't say everybody should be persecuted and crucified by the Antichrist. Right? And obviously there was an imminent time when the guards were outnumbered, right? More than once. And all these things, right? Where Peter cut guard's ear off, right? Right? And he did. And what are you going to do about it, right? Right? Because, he was their high priest. He's a high priest, right? He's their leader, right? The high priest. And the king, literally the king. The king. The king, okay? So their king. So their king went up for persecution and crucifixion. For 9 hours, and he died. And he woke back up. He woke back up with scars on his hands and his feet. Right? The story goes. And he showed them, and he showed them off. And then he showed them to the Apostle Paul, who believed. So the Apostle Paul brought this religion to the churches, and the churches agreed, especially Caesar, that a one true God is a great idea. And Jesus was a hell of a saint. He was a great saint. I'm sorry to use the word, but he was the greatest saint in God in the flesh, and for those reasons. And so I'm saying, for you, if you would like to be a Christian or believe or not believe in Jesus Christ at all, that there was a lesson there that God wants you to have eternal life. And that's what is happening when you do that. And God bless you. And also, they say there's a separation of church and state in politics. Right? Obviously, there's a separation of church and state in the law, right? And there's no requirement. But there's no law against you being a Christian and running for politics, or being a Christian, right? Or an Aryan by race. And, maintaining and standing up for your civil rights, your constitutional rights, right? Which are very basic, right? And emulate the Ten Commandments quite a bit, right? For those reasons, that they should be simple to understand and universal laws, right? They were, they can be used by, terrorists, even socialist programs that can be infiltrated by, terrorists, to say that, well, the consequences aren't so bad for us if we break all of these laws, and then once we gain control, what are you going to do about it anyways? And then who's going to enforce it, right? You say, well, we're going to do something. We got to do something about it. You should vote for Frisby, right? And vote out and boycott those antichrists that are persecuting you, right? And that will make a huge difference. And it can make a huge difference. It can fairly quickly, right? But you will notice the difference when you do something. All right. So we are live. This is my first live podcast. And here I am, running for governor and president of the United States of America. And also ministering uh my church, working on establishing the two churches. And so I'm Christian. I am Christian. I am Catholic, Orthodox. I'm Christian. I'm both. And a lot of this has to do with how you define and include other saints and apostles in history and things along those lines, and the history of how your church was even established. It's very complicated, right? To even have a church, right? It's very complicated to get people to agree on anything. Oftentimes, right? So, as a very high priest, I say that I, would qualify as the highest priest, and I haven't gone to college for ministry, right? That I'm doing this um, by my own inspiration, I suppose. By the by what I can do in God, inspired by the Bible and by higher calling, right? You know, as in illumination and in these things that go beyond some kind of some kind of college degree, right? There would be kind of more inherent is to my personality and what my goals are, and there are other religions like Norse mythology and things like that you know in Buddhism especially, where you have these things like this you want to attain the eagle head, right? The oneness, or the Asgard, right? Where you live in your mind in a higher realm, right? And well, the idea is that your surroundings will reflect that also, right? In your health and things like that, right? When you're in a higher realm in your mind, in one with God, right? And so, Buddhism and Odinism, or Norse mythology, and Christianity, they share these similarities, right? I'm saying I'm Christian, definitely, right? Right. But I'm not against other religions that follow mythology and symbolism and lessons of other saints and apostles, and even you know uh, they have truth in them, right? Astrological truth and um, definitions, and where they use parables, astrological and scientific parables, right, for things that are very difficult to explain, right, to anybody, you know. So or even understand, because of the significance of how great they are, in symbolism or symbology, or spirituality and things like that, right? That right, even as a quantum physicist in the realm of I'm a quantum physicist as a hobby, realm of spirituality, and then how that shines through into you know into the sun, into the light that created all things, and God, right? I'm definitely Christian, Orthodox and Christian, Catholic. And I would like to be the Pope. And I'm also would like to be the Imperial Royal King of planet Earth, right? With a royal crown. So I'm running for king also, right? Certainly, I am. But I'm running for president of the United States of America. And I'm running as an Aryan Christian. Aryan Christian, not as a Odinist or a Buddhist or an Orthodox Christian necessarily, or a Catholic Christian, right? I'm not excluding all other denominations, or Lutheran or a Protestant, right? That I can appreciate the diversity, obviously, right? But then there's the organization of the masses, and there's also the truth of why it's been true, or been true in perfecting the theology into understanding, in the spirituality of God, the creator, our creator, the creator, created all things, right? The God, and it's one of my favorites references is in the Bible is to pray to the God who created all things, not the God that created, right? Like the laptop or the light, right? These great things, right? Or the clay or the dust or the water, right? Because what it's saying is that you're giving, not to say you can't appreciate those things, but it's saying that you're not giving credit to the God that created the thing anymore, all things. And what it does is it creates a sort of a unity, an appreciation for all things when you do that. So I appreciate that. And then it's how it fits along with everything. So right. And Godhead, and attaining Godhead, and the church's Godhead, right? Godhead, which is a higher attenuation, right? To say, that you have kind of gone through the light, and into a higher realm, and improve your life. So um, another thing about it is the truth of it, right? And so when we searched out these guys that are liars, in the CIA and NASA, the great the great trick that they've played on you, this magic trick that they played, right? They've persecuted Aryans and Christians, Buddhists, they've Odinists, right? And the reason is because they're the Antichrist. So they're not playing by the same godly rules, right? That you would be playing by, right? And when there are consequences, there aren't any for them, right? So they keep going. So there's no consequence if there are no Aryan Christians left on television. So they keep going. There's no consequences if there's no Aryan Christians left in politics, and they keep going until there's none left, right? And they will. And that's the Antichrist, and that's the way that it works. You have to stop the Antichrist from taking over the world, or they will. That's what is there. When God brings light into the world, what happens is the darkness is removed from the world. So things you can do is Don't feed and support the Antichrist. Don't give it jobs and money and support, because there's not going to be a reciprocation. And also say, well, what's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it, right? Well, there is. If it's the destruction of your race and your religion, then there's something wrong with it, right? Say if it's just because it's the death of or the end of Aryan Christianity or Buddhism or anything else, but your race is the end of your race, right? So we go talk about the tree that bears good fruit, right? Would be eternal life, right? Right. Well, eternal life is when you go forward and have eternal life as a Christian. So what they're giving you is the option to go forward and have eternal life as the Antichrist, or what you would assume to be eternal life as the Antichrist. But it doesn't work out in the long run. It just doesn't work, right? So you will, whatever your offspring or your ancestors or whatever, right? You'll stop being Aryan Christian. You'll stop being Christian. You'll start being the Antichrist, right? So if you think about the TV shows like The Walking Dead or something like that, well there you go. Now you a zombie or whatever, and your numbers are down and our numbers are up. Now all the zombies rule. But who cares if you're a zombie? Who needs whatever? If you're a zombie, right? Who needs it, right? And everybody's doing it, right? So that's kind of the way that it goes. Well, and when their numbers are, when the Antichrist's numbers are up, then everybody's a zombie then. And then they'll hunt you down and find you. So here you are. Anyways, I'm not saying you shouldn't appreciate good sci-fi, but the thing is, be aware that the moon landing and the Mars landing are a lie. And when that's being propagated throughout the media, it is to steal your money. And what they're doing with the money is and the fake media is persecuting Aryan Christians, Buddhists, eagle head, godly people, aware that it's a lie, that are aware that they're liars, and that they're persecuting other people like you, right? They're persecuting people like you that are minding your own business. Is what I'm saying. Is that when they started harassing me, when I started noticing that they were harassing me, I was certainly minding my own business, right? I wasn't persecuting the CIA or NASA, right? At all. I wasn't running for politics. Didn't have anything to do with any of that, right? But they are persecuting your race. Actively, right? So, and you want to watch the numbers. When these people get these, well, this person has $50 or $60 billion now. What they're going to do with the money? They're going to hire more antichrists, bigots. They're going to run you out of your job, and things like that, right? And it's progressive, right? And who needs it, right? Who needs you, right? And we can always, and the one they love to use, they've used this one on me, is we can get anybody to do that. Yeah, but we can get anybody to do that now that we've stolen what was yours, made you homeless, and now you're doing a new thing. Well, what we haven't stolen and what you're doing now, right? We can get anybody to do. And it's for the most part, most people kind of have to do certain things every day, eat and sleep and whatever, get exercise, right? Well, we can get anybody to drink a glass of orange juice over at Trader Joe's. Anybody can do that. Anybody can do that, right? What makes you so special, right? Well, my question is why are all these antichrist people drinking my orange juice? At all, right? And, the CIA, want to harass me and steal my property, and then a bunch of antichrist people are going to follow me around and drink my orange juice too. And that's the answer. Yeah. Why should they be drinking orange? Right. So. Right. And no, not anybody can do what you do. Right. You're not like that. So expensive. Right. So here we go. And I have referenced the Bible several times, and not to deny you a good sermon, I would like pick one more sermon. I will pick one more sermon, a subject from the Bible, right there. So this wasn't pre-planned or anything like that. I will just speak about a verse out of the Bible. I don't have a long sermon written. I will, and the fun thing is that, I've come to, I've come to do the sermon and speak with you, right? And so maybe someone would like to watch this. They enjoy the sermon and it being the lessons that come along with these kind of things, right? And I'm also running for office, governor of California, president of the United States of America, Mark Raymond Frisby Jr. God bless you. So we are in let's open the book up to Psalm 104 from the top. Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, you are very great. You are clothed with splendor and majesty, covering yourself with light as with a garment, stretching out the heavens like a tent. He lays the beams on his chambers on the waters. He makes the clouds his chariot. He rides on the wings of the wind. Right? And now, this reference is to the majesty, right? The beauty of God and all his creations. And grace, right? Very graceful. So sometimes the Lord is referenced as, a person. And sometimes it's referenced God as, great creator and how maybe he resembles or embodies a person, right? And so we have, we look to who is God, what does he look like? And that's often the question. And that was one description, right? And how he might be, maybe like a newborn baby or something, right? Somehow like Adam in the Garden of Eden, right? Somehow pure, right? And beautiful in his natural form, right? Or hers, right? His natural form. So, one of the questions that brings up often is, what does God look like? Right? And then the answer is, that we were created in God's image, right? So God looks like you. God looks like you, right? God's beautiful. God looks like your father, something like that. Or how would you imagine God, right? And I will say this: that you don't have to look like Jesus Christ. And God created you in God's image, right? That you can look in the mirror and find God, and that is in attaining Godhead. That you can look in your own reflection, not in vanity, but in the appreciation that God created all things. God created you in God's image, right? So we can read that one and then say, imagine yourself as this. Right? Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, you are very great. You are clothed with splendor and majesty, covering yourself with light as with a garment, stretching out the heavens like a tent. He lays the beams of his chambers on the waters. He makes the clouds of his chariot. He rides on the wings of the wind. And another thing that about this is engineering feats. They're encouraged by this song. You know, the sailing and flying and traveling over great lands and things like that. It's very encouraging. And this, obviously, this was written. I don't know how obvious that is, long before airplanes or internal combustion engines, and even light bulbs. So what God does, create for you in your imagination, right? And in this high technology world that we have, also, right? So when you say things like, well, God does those things, right, on Earth, and this is the thing, that Earth is the world that we have. So Earth, not some distant planet in a far galaxy, far away, is the only world that we have to take care of. And God created this world and you for it. So don't let anybody tell you that there's another planet for you somewhere that you might be able to fly away to, Mars, or the moon, right? There's not. This is it. You on Earth, right? And this is your world to take care of, right? And so, as a Christian, Aryan, or Asian, or Buddhist, or Odinist, or Orthodox Christian, or Catholic, or Lutheran, right? Protestant, right? Aryan, take care of your world, right? In your race, in your religion, in Christ, in God, right? This world, this actual physical world that you're on, that you live on, where you breathe the air and the water and the oceans, right? These airplanes and boats and cars, right? So, right. And what's in your immediate area and everything. We're at World War III right now with Ukraine. This was started by the CIA. And so you haven't maybe been affected by that. Maybe you have. But, as far as militaristically in a martial law situation or an actual world war, most of that conflict is happening in Ukraine right now. Ukraine's about the size of Texas. All right. It was started by the CIA to persecute Aryan Christians on purpose, and it was premeditated, and it's been happening. And it was pre-planned, and it's not just about Chesapeake natural gas or all of the oil, natural gas resources that Ukraine has, which is very abundant. Also, there's nuclear power plant there, but it's not about that. The actual natural resources as an export, and who owns it and who controls those things. Now, like Chesapeake natural gas was tanked by the CIA, but not because there's a shortage of natural gas or because it's not a functional industry. It's about who has actual control over the resources and the money and the land at this time. And we look at our current president, Joe Biden, and his son, Hunter Biden, who have a lot of interest in Chesapeake natural gas, especially in Ukraine. He said, well, it's all for America then, right? Because, Hunter Biden's going to go over there and get a little bit of that, that Chesapeake natural gas, interest over there in Ukraine, and then maybe establish, a United Nations kind of stronghold over there, right? Maybe appear that way on the surface. But what's happening over there is Antichrist bigots are persecuting Aryan Christians out of their jobs and their houses, right? So they just, and then, who's in control, right, of the resources. And they're saying, well, the Soviet Union's the bad guy, the Russians, right? They didn't do anything. They're just being attacked. They're being attacked. So they were attacked physically, attacked and everything over there, right? And there was a brush at the borders, and then they were, the conflict is a peace conflict, right? So what's happened is that there is money in supporting a rebellion against Russia, right? And a peace and a peace action, right? So when the Soviet Union says you violated international peace treaty and we're at nuclear war right now, we just want to resolve the conflict, right? We're going to send in our military, right, to establish peace in the area, right? That's what they did, and their soldiers were shot at, right, and attacked. So NATO started sending ammunitions and soldiers in, right, in support of the rebellion, which would be, an attack against Russia, right, who's trying to establish some kind of peace. Russia didn't go in there to what, take over Ukraine originally, or anything along those lines, right? But to remove the NATO forces and the nuclear missiles that were being transported into that area because they were being put under attack and a force for what is known as a show of force, as an extreme show of force, which is a nuclear threat, right? So, so Russia was in defending themselves, right? And how do they react? Right? We're in nuclear war now, so far as in Ukraine. The whole world is in nuclear war because of the CIA and their actions through NATO. And how do they get in there, right? And so they had support by the British royal family, right? Who is not an ally of the United States of America, right? They are an ally of the British royal family. They're not in support of America being number one in the world for any reason. It doesn't pay them. They don't get any money for that, right? And that's what they're in it for. They're not in it for world peace or, to build up America, right? And they're not. And so that's what they did was, they have encouraged and antagonized this entire war by sitting in people like Zelensky, who was a member of their BBC actor studio, a good friend, right? A good friend, an ally to the British royal family, right? What Zelensky is a member of the actor studio, also a very racist member of the actor studio, who has supported CIA, American CIA in Ukraine, who was actively persecuting Aryan Christians, just like they did to me in America, right? Running people out of their jobs and their houses and things like that, stealing their property and their intellectual property, and establishing things like SpaceX and Tesla in the areas, and trying to take control of the World Bank, right, in the area, and move the World Bank, right, to something that they have absolute control over, right? But the thing is, you're looking at who these people are, right? And consider your age. I want to say consider your age. And why these people, these antichrist bigots, should have and own anything at this time, and have any property rights, right? Or be in control of anything in the media or in the government, in the United Nations, right? When they're persecuting Aryan Christians, they're persecuting you, right? They're persecuting your race. So give them control of the World Bank and the media, right? Well, so what Zelensky did over there, he's a Jew, he's a racist Jew in the actor studio, right? And there's a lot of those in the actor studio. We joined NATO. Why? To start, well, in support of starting World War III. There was a campaign, and this was a campaign to win, right? So Russia is not supposed to know what's happening, right, or anything like that. The whole world is supposed to be oblivious to all of this, how the war was started, and why. And then, of course, Russia would somehow fail out and lose whatever, be boycotted and harassed and everything, and then kind of picked apart, and then mostly not traded with. So what that is, isolated, globally isolated, right? Globally isolated and harassed, right? Basically, while the resources that are available in Ukraine are taken by the UN, right? Okay. When I say that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden have interest in natural gas is different than they say had interest in oil, right? Because the war is not in the Middle East or somewhere in right in Iraq or Afghanistan or Kuwait, right? It's not in the way because their interest is in natural gas, Chesapeake natural gas, right? So there they are, and there they are over there, starting World War, nuclear war with Russia, and it's not because Russia did anything wrong, right? That's what they're doing, and that has anything to do with the prolongation of the United States of America, okay? Because they're doing is they're persecuting good people and persecuting Aryan Christians, and they're creating a, a country full of bigots, antichrist bigots that are funded, right? Terrorists, basically, right? They're funding terrorism, right? So, and it's bad when they they can convince people that don't know what's actually happening or over there or anything that the Russians did it or they're bad or they started it and they didn't, right? Or the Ukrainians did it, they started it and they didn't, and the Ukrainian people didn't do anything wrong. Right? For the most part, they didn't do anything wrong other than be persecuted because they're Aryan Christians and by Jews, mostly Jews and other antichrist terrorist organizations, right? So, and they have, and this was happening over there with support of the British Royal family. And so my suggestion is get them all out of the union, out of politics completely. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out, and don't listen to them complain about it, because what they're gonna do when they get in there is it's not fair. We need a vote, but what they do is they persecute your race while they're there. And they do it. They do it illegally, and that's all they do. I mean, basically, is theft and things like that, and persecution, religious persecution, right? So, get rid of them completely out of politics. That's been my request with the union and everything like that. Now, I'm hoping that goes through. It's long term, permanently. That happens. But this has been my first podcast live. It's going on about 2 hours. And God bless you. My name is Mark Raymond Frisby Jr. I'm running for governor of California, president of the United States of America. I would like to be nominated Imperial Royal King of the world. I'm serious about all of those things, right? I'm a high priest. I am working on establishing these churches and nonprofits and things like that also, right? And getting into the corporate media business, right? I would like to be the CEO of all of these major corporate media companies now, right? I don't think Aryan Christians should be persecuted by racists, and I would like to be the CEO of all of these companies, every one that you could think of. So, as we move forward, I wish you the best of luck, and God bless you, and I'll be here. Vote for Frisby, right? All right. God bless you.